Welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity, your sacred space for deep healing and transformation. Listen to inspiring conversations with healing experts, spiritual guides, and teachers as we explore ancient wisdom, modern healing, and powerful stories of change. I'll also share practical insights from my personal journey, from spiritual crisis to inner purpose. Whether you're seeking to overcome anxiety, embrace your true nature, or awaken your higher self, this podcast offers guidance to help you transform your life and elevate collective consciousness. Hey everyone, and welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity podcast. I'm so excited that you're here for this awesome interview with Dr. Heather Tucker. Tell us about the kind of work that you do.
Okay. So I am a business and life harmony trainer and coach, and I specialize in working with entrepreneurs who want to achieve success in business and life harmony because it really is two sides of the same coin. We never want to get so busy making a living that we forget to make a life. And it is possible to work more smarter than harder, stress less, strengthen our relationships, and lead with much more energy, ease, and momentum. And the biggest piece of this is really showing and supporting entrepreneurs and increasing their calm, confidence, and cash flow by healing and winning their inner world to master their outer world. And there lies the beauty of amplifying purpose, passion, and prosperity. So I have a professional training and coaching company. I teach and certify life harmony coaches, helping people create peace on all sides, as well as communication mind experts. Because when there's a healed heart and a renewed mind, and is working on one accord, we literally become unstoppable. And I think this is something that's so essential, especially in this time, and especially as we're talking about this amazing message that you're sharing about trauma, because the big picture is we don't have to have a great past to have a great future. We can actually recreate and restore ourselves each and every day. And I've been blessed with learning these skills of how to be able to do that, how to be able to win the battle within so that nothing externally can touch you and you can just show up and be the lighthouse leader that you are and enjoy this journey as compared to all the craziness of trying to figure it out otherwise.
And the fear and all the rest of that stuff, right?
Correct. Yes.
I had a really quick question before my next question because this happens. I'll pick up on something. You mentioned cash flow, right? You know, everybody's always desperately or something like there's a lack mentality that goes on because of, from my own experience, from trauma, from financial trauma, from whatever that is. Can you kind of give the listeners an idea of, it's not necessarily because we have to have money and it's important that we have money and money. You know, it's like, I call it green energy. And cash flow, my understanding of it now that I've done my own healing work, we become an attractor of it. It's not about getting it, it's about receiving it. Can you kind of
Correct. On so many levels. Yeah, I love the word cash flow. I love the word money. It's so interesting how a lot of times we can resist receiving money. Most of us who are in a service-based orientated business tend to be great at giving. You know, I remember being a great giver. I still am a great giver. But what was the resistance was the receiving.
Mhm.
And you want to think about it like air, right? Okay, we breathe in and we breathe out, and money comes in and money goes out. Well, there should be a harmony with that, like a beautiful dance. I'm thinking about like dancing with the wind of exponential receiving and also exponential giving.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty in that because, a lot of times, and I remember even some of the traumas and stuff that I'll share with you, it was this feeling of unworthiness, undeservingness, or feeling like a worthlessness. And the reality is, when we have that belief in heart space and we hold on to those beliefs, it actually blocks us from really being able to receive. But oh my goodness, when you actually break free internally and release these things, then receive it's like a neutral thing to receive money. I want every entrepreneur to have 10K, 20K days,
Sure.
right? I mean, and it's so easy to
Yeah.
receive that
Yeah.
once we get out of our own self-imposed limitation.
A
And
hundred.
how do we look at that though? I just want to kind of highlight this too, because lack is a human construct. Lack is something that comes from trauma and all these different things, or that you have to work hard for money, all of these beautiful things that,
A
you
program.
know, that are programmed in, right, correct. But we are big picture nature,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And nature, a tree doesn't come out of the ground and it's like, oh my goodness, it's too scary. Let me just go back down into the dirt. No, it continues to grow, to thrive, to embrace the abundance and the worthiness and the value that we really are.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
when you do that, then oh my goodness, just open those floodgates because money comes so in so many unexpected ways. It's beautiful. And
Yeah.
that way, it's not a chase. It's like a get to. You stand as the lighthouse leader that you are. This is who I am. This is how I serve. And yay. And you shine your light, and the right boats just come to you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a much better way of doing business and life. Because here's the other thing about this money thing, it also connects to love.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people's like it's one or the other, but it's supposed to be. And the beautiful thing is that it can be and both lots of money and both lots of love.
So, as you say that, what's hitting me is that first, we're all connected to everything, right? So, money is not separate from us. The energy of money, the cash, none of that is separate from us. But there's a process that's gone on for a while now where spiritual people are taught that money is bad for them as individuals, but then it gets locked in somehow to the church or the people asking for money, all that. And you've got these big monstrous religions with buildings that are huge. Meanwhile, all these people who've given them their money are flat broke because they were told that being spiritual means that you have to be broke. And that's not the case because it took me, I mean, I had that happen for me a while ago, and it took me a long time to come out of that. And that was part of my trauma. And so what I recognized was as I kept healing the trauma, closing the trauma loop that was causing my nervous system to react and oh my god, I have no money, I'm scared, I'm in lack, I'm all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, it happens still, I'm human, it comes up every once in a while here and there. But I noticed the difference is like things just when I slowed that down, when I healed it, when I stopped doing that, things just started coming to me. And it doesn't, an abundance, go for this one. Abundance is not necessarily money. Abundance is the tree, it's the flowers, it's the sky, it's the air we breathe. That's abundance too. So that's where I hear when you bring this up, that's where I hear and feel that connection. Am I for
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to.
Yeah, you're on the right track. I mean, the big picture is the more that you can receive, the more that you're already called. Like victory is already yours if you're called to a journey,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, a marriage, all these different things.
Life.
Um, life, right? And how we walk in it. If it's already yours, the question is how are we walking into it? Because the more that you actually receive, the more that you can be able to give. And it's so much better to be able to give from your overflow and release all the money traumas and release all the internal things that question, am I good enough? Who am I to do that? They're going to listen to all these different, is it worth it?
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely worth it. And the power and the journey of coaching in itself, especially the type of coaching that I do and I teach, it is the value that people get is exponentially much more. of a return on investment that they ever invested. So it's priceless,
Mhm. Yeah,
you know?
that makes sense. So, with all that we've said, how do you think that relates to our awakening and what's going on the planet right now? Because I think there's a link there, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, it's so interesting, and I smile a little bit because I recently earlier today spoke about how to win the inner world to master your outer world. The thing is, it's a reflection. If you're charged by something in your external world, it's actually really a good thing.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because it ignites a call within your inner world to be able to do something about it, right? So, and then the secret is to become the change that you wish to see as compared to fighting the external situation. Because a lot of times when we're fighting, we can become the very thing that we are fighting to some degree.
I don't want to be like my mother.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? Because that's huge. That's really powerful. The Let me, maybe I'll extend it a little bit here. The When we are taught to be afraid, which is what is happening right now, we are taught to be afraid of each other. And so when we're taught
Right.
that, then we have no sense of stability and we never know what's going to happen. So then we lose like all sense of, understanding of what's going on around us. So can you kind of,
This is where emotional intelligence and energy intelligence comes into place.
yeah,
Because the biggest thing is we can't control what's happening externally. We can control how we respond internally. And that is one of the things that makes all the difference. So it's about redefining fear,
yeah,
right? So fear stands for forget everything and run, right? Like I'll share with you and I talk about my story about how, I specialize in human computer interaction and my best relationship was with my computer because
right.
people weren't safe,
I get that.
right?
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, but the reality is, what was it about it wasn't people are people, but what did it bring up in me? Anxiety, uncertainty, fear. So redefining fear from forgetting everything and running, which we're so good at, especially those of us who've gone through trauma,
Mhm.
to facing everything and rising
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that you can really feel everything and relax. That's exactly where it is. I mean, as you're going towards this journey of freedom, the greatest terror and all these unexpected things are unpreferred situations and circumstances, they kick up even bigger. So, okay, how do we respond to it as
Mhm.
compared to saying, oh, let me just go back to my comfort zone? No, you lean in to what's going on, you let go of what you got to let go of, and then leap forward,
Mhm.
especially as we're getting closer and closer to the freedom. So essential.
And it seems though the closer you get to freedom, the more, and I call them opportunities. The more opportunities come into your life, and then you're like, wait, didn't I just do this? Yeah, you did, but and I like to share this little thought is that every time you go up or through your process, it's like going up a mountain. So you come to this one spot at this level of what you know and understand, and this is what you see. It could be, this certain time of year or whatever's going on at that point. And then once you get through that, you continue to rise up the mountain, and then you're coming up here and you're looking out in that same space again. It's like, why is that happening to me again? But it's not. It's just something bringing you another opportunity, but you're looking at it from a different perspective because you're higher up now. It's a different space that you look for. So that's really important what you're saying. Because when things happen in our lives, people look at it like it's the end of the world. Well, it is in the moment, but it's this too shall pass, right? So
Well,
it's something to
well.
learn and work through.
I love that you mentioned this analogy of the mountain. And I also love that you mentioned this too shall pass. I want to just like add on. Imagine you're hiking up this mountain, you're going to another level. and you got a backpack on, and this backpack is filled with some of the rocks or significant emotional events that you've experienced in your life. Well, the more that you're going up the mountain, the more you're collecting more rocks, the heavier the weight becomes.
Yes.
So this is one of the things about like this too shall pass, or you ever heard that analogy? I'm just going to bounce right back. Well, you keep bouncing back and all like it creates a weight. And a lot of times it's an unconscious weight that can cause ailment to the body, to the mind, to the heart, and to the soul. So when you see these patterns, it's like, and you have an overreaction or like it's the end of the world. It's not just the end of the world of that situation, but a collection of all of the previous similar situations compounding and adding to that event,
Right.
which makes it even more of an overreaction. I
Right.
actually teach my clients how to celebrate their overreactions because, oh my goodness, that gives us something to be able to see what's going on. What are the pieces and the patterns and how to unravel that to get to the root cause of where this came from. And it's just like a weed. When you pluck it up from the root, it no longer has a place to grow, and then more grass can actually grow.
Well, that's a good segue. So here comes the trauma.
Okay.
You have a significant personal trauma or something that you experienced that was a catalyst for the work that you do.
Oh my goodness. So much.
We all
So,
have like days, but
no. Yeah.
I appreciate and connect with you on all that stuff. It's just trauma is just something that we get to look back on and appreciate. And that's kind of how that question is put out there instead of hanging in it and staying stuck in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So
Well, and this is the reason why I smile about it. See, the beautiful part about when you heal your trauma from their mind, body, heart, and soul, you can be able to, it's like it's healed, made light. So I can share from this place of empowerment where there's no like reliving it for me. So it's actually, yay, I get to share with you the interesting journey. So big picture, I graduated at age 27 with my PhD in IT. And I mentioned before how like I loved working in my specialty was human computer interaction. And I love working with computers because they're the one thing that will not like abandon me or betray me or like, people it's just it was an intrinsic like not trust of people that I could never figure out where it came from. Does that make sense? It's like I just remember growing up with this like polarized part. I couldn't understand what's going on in my mind. I couldn't understand what's going on in my heart.
yeah, and that's why you chose IT though, because your self, your inner self to protect you was guiding you towards something where you didn't have to deal with people, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I was great in my career. I
Yeah.
was horrible in relationships, especially intimate relationships. And having had this devastation of what's going on, I just didn't understand.
Mhm.
But there was something that happened when I got my dream job at age 28, working for the Army as a researcher. It was awesome. I got to travel all over the world, but there was so much devastation that was happening in not only my intimate relationships, but also my family.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one thing to be able to be going through trauma, it's another thing to see other people going through trauma.
Mhm.
And so it was the incident from the Trayvon Martin situation that
Mhm.
happened in Orlando. And I was living 20 minutes away from where that happened. Big picture, it was a black kid walking home from the store, and he was murdered, and his murderer got let off with just it was very, very sad how that happened. And I saw all of the chaos that I was creating in the community. The
Right.
thought for me was, man, this could have been my nephew, right? Like we would see all of these things happening, and it would just be these patterns of, oh my goodness, another person gets wrongfully visually discriminated against. And it'd be just like this heartbreaking. And I got sick of having that pattern where, okay, I'm doing all right. And then something happens and there's a dip down in energy. So I simply asked, remember we talked about, okay, there's an external challenge. God, what are you calling me to do about this? What is this internal thing that I need to figure out? And it actually led me to leaving the Army and going into higher education and then thereby leading into coaching. I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how so. Well, right around the time that I left the Army, I met my husband. And my husband is a Purple Heart Marine Corps veteran. He did a couple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and came back with post-traumatic stress. And he had an amazing 1.5-year-old who is my stepson. He's 11 now. And it was crazy because I was, first of all, single, had, living life. And then all of a sudden I have these two beautiful beams of light in my life, and I didn't even know how to deal with them or interact with them. And so it created these energetic trauma balls. Like basically my trauma, his trauma coming together. It's like we got two different worlds. How to come together when you come from two different worlds to create a new one.
Right.
And so what was interesting was I didn't realize at the time, but I had developed secondary PTSD. And that's one of the things that they talk about. If you're with someone that has post-traumatic stress, you can develop secondary PTSD. And I had some great support systems like military spouses who shared with me that. And then I was like, oh, I'm not claiming this. We are not claiming this. See, here's the thing. When there's no conflict or anything within you, nothing externally can touch you. So at that time, there was a lot of trauma in me that I just went through life ignoring. Like a lot of times we go through life and think about the logical side, okay, do this, do this, do this. But the emotional side and the mental side was so far removed because I learned and I grew up with put your feelings in your pocket, keep going, and that is the part about this too shall pass that we don't want to ignore, because when we ignore our emotions, they become like this big old, like trying to push a volleyball underwater. You can only push it down so far before it comes up and pop you in the face. So I had a lot of not understanding about my anger, sadness, frustration. I had a lot of unwanted behaviors. Like I did a lot of drinking back then. And the only way that I could calm my mind down to focus was to smoke. And I had no idea what that was. So I went on a journey to figure out what is going on. I want to help others. But in order for me to help others fully, I had to be able to help myself. So one of the things that I learned on this journey was, oh my goodness, my trauma didn't start from here. So what happens with the mind tries to keep you safe. So it will suppress or repress a memory and repress things just to preserve the body and keep you going. This is why a lot of times people can go through trauma and not have any cognizant recollection of what happened. So as I went on this journey and I was figuring out like, what the heck is wrong with me? Then I discovered, oh my goodness, it was things that happened when I was at age 0, 1, 2, things that were inherited. There's a book that talks about how it didn't start with you. And a lot of times our trauma can even be inherited. Our negative emotions can be inherited by our family members, our ancestors. So when the earliest parts of trauma that I remember now that I've done this work, I was absorbing because I was this beautiful energy. Like a lot of people in my family, they would say, "Oh, Heather, you're too sensitive. Oh, why are you feeling this way?" Right? Well, here's the beautiful thing. For those of you who have heard, you're too sensitive. Why are you feeling this way? Don't worry about feelings. That is a beautiful thing for your calling. There's only 20% of the population that have this beautiful hypersensitivity, and it's a gift, not a curse.
Can I stop you there for a second? Say that one more time, the last few words that you said.
I have no idea. It is on the recording.
Gift, not a curse.
Okay.
So I have a group of old souls, highly sensitives, and empaths, which I think I mentioned when we first spoke. And there's over 16,000 of these people in the group. So it's good that you're talking about this, because when I first opened the group, these traumatized empaths and highly sensitive people who came in believed, and some probably still do, that it's a curse. Once you get through the process of healing yourself, it is no longer a curse. Then you get to recognize that it's superpower. It's like it's the thing that creates who you are and what you do in this world.
So yes, and you can be the work in progress and the masterpiece at the same time.
Mhm.
I think that there's always another level of healing. There's always another level, especially as you step into your calling, it's going to create and kick up even more amazing stuff for be able to figure out what to work on.
Yeah.
Um, and this is so that part about how it can be it feels like a curse. Absolutely. But when you understand what your calling is and what your purpose is, and you start living in it, you see that it brings out the natural intuition for you to be able to even connect and understand what's happening with not only yourself but also other people.
Mhm.
And there's a beautiful gift in that. That's what makes six-figure coaches.
Mhm.
That's what makes amazing speakers. The ability to be seen, heard, and felt, and also hold a space and
Yes.
allow other people to be seen, heard, and felt in the most beautiful aloha way possible. And only really good hypersensitive people can do that. It's
Yeah.
not something that is trained. It's just a part of a natural gift.
And
It's a
it's
natural gift and talent.
right, right. And it's a good thing. And I have to ask you a question on that note. Are you
Okay.
from Hawaii or you just believe in aloha, the aloha?
Oh, I am from the Hawaii of the East. It's the eastern shore of Virginia. And I call it the Hawaii of the East because we're on a peninsula surrounded by water.
Okay,
Now here's the interesting thing. Water is all about emotion.
that's right.
So a lot of things come up here, but I remember growing up, no one ever talks about mindset. No one ever talked about emotional intelligence or heart space. But I visit Hawaii quite a bit. I've been there probably like 10 times.
Wow.
And here is the thing about Hawaii is they didn't give them gold, silver, or precious metals. They gave them aloha.
Hmm.
And aloha is unconditional love. It means so much more than that.
Hmm.
But it's like you can't buy it or sell it. You can only live it.
Right.
So I want to circle back to the traumas that happened that led to this. Okay.
Okay.
So the first significant emotional event that I totally blocked out that I had no clue about happened when I was 3 years old. I was just about to turn 4, and I was molested by my uncle. And what did that create? It created betrayal. It created this distrust. It created all of this shame on me, like I did something wrong when it had nothing to do with me, right?
Yep.
Now, fast forward, and then I remember also trying to express it, but then I can't express what's going on, or I was ignored.
Hmm.
We were when we're too busy, we miss stuff,
Hmm.
right? And so fast forward to about a year and a half later, my grandfather, who was an entrepreneur, he was actually the most successful Black man on the shore when he passed away. He sold tires and coal. And it was so interesting because that was like the first example of entrepreneurship that I saw. And
Okay.
he was murdered when I was 5. And the sad reality was that his killer was never found, but it also wasn't intended to be found because to the police, he was just another dead Black man.
Mhm.
So, why am I sharing this with you? Is because these things, significant emotional events, already created the difficulty in having deep level relationships,
Mhm.
already created the fear of actually expressing and communicating and sharing the message. If I would have held on to all of these things and the weight of them, just the piece about knowing that these things that happen, your unconscious mind your mind has two parts. One that you can consciously get, and then the bigger part of it is your unconscious mind. So when you go through trauma, it's like a beautiful filing cabinet because it keeps track of every single thing that you experience in your entire life. Well, one of the things that a lot of people may not know is you also have a part of your heart that's unconscious. And so as you go through these things, it creates this heart wall. So then if there's a conflict of, okay, I want to be seen versus don't see me, part of me wants to be seen, part of me doesn't. That's like a tug of war in the mind and heart and body and gets trickled into your business.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be able to bring wholeness to that
Mm-hmm.
because your business is an extension of all that you are.
Absolutely.
And every single thing that we've gone through, it was at first I was so mad. I remember being so mad. Like, oh my goodness, I went through all this and nobody ever knew like what was going on. Like I didn't even know what was going on. So how can I expect someone else to?
Right. Right.
Right? And here's the thing, when you heal those,
Mm-hmm.
these are just things that happen. They no longer have energy and weight on what is because your thoughts have energy,
Right.
your mind has energy, your emotions have energy. So when we hold on to them, especially the negative ones, the lower, denser weight, it becomes like a ball and chain as we're trying to step into our freedom.
Yes. Yes. I want to cut in here because it reminded me of Oprah Winfrey, and she wrote a book with somebody, a psychiatrist, called "It's Not uh, What's Wrong with You" or whatever. It's What Happened to You. I think the name of the book is actually What Happened to You. And the challenge, I'd like you to go a little bit deeper into this, is because a lot of us think that there's something wrong with us based off of the experiences that we've had as children, like you shared, and growing up. And then we start to believe that there's something wrong with us. When they brought this book out, there were a lot of podcasts and a lot of people talking about it because it's Oprah Winfrey, and right. And it made me realize that, I mean, this was like a turning point for me because it wasn't about what's wrong with you. None of our reactions to life or any of the things that we do means that there's something wrong with us. It means something happened to us. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Sure. What was coming as you were talking is that, first of all, your beliefs create your reality.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that you take into your five senses, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, they all shape our beliefs. Now, um, at age 0 to 7, we're like a sheet of cookie dough. So we're constantly being imprinted. We take on other people's beliefs. And so, for example, for these traumas to happen in that, it was like rooted, known what to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a thing called the adverse childhood experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? That say, okay, you've gone through these traumas because you've gone through these traumas, you're destined to die earlier, to, have these significant like substance abuse, all these different things, right? It's like a trajectory.
Right.
The secret is to be able to change the trajectory. So when you break free from I'm not good enough, who am I to do this? No one is going to listen to what I have to say to, and owning and believing that, oh my goodness, I am great enough. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. There's so much power in me. I can't wait to share. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference.
Yeah.
And what you think about and what you believe to be true about you is what you get. Why do
Mm-hmm.
I say this? Okay, so I thought with all this happened, and I couldn't understand why my mind was so split and why I had all these crazy relationships, right? But I believed that I was unworthy. I believed that I was worthless. I believed that I was trash and I didn't deserve to be happy and didn't deserve to have amazing, healthy love. And oh my goodness, that's what I got,
Right. Exactly.
right?
I know.
So, what's the definition of insanity?
I do.
Doing the same thing over and over again. A lot of times, this is one of the reasons why, a lot of times people will like, and I know there's a big battle right now, especially against marriages,
Mhm.
because what happens is the more intimate the person is with you, the more that your shit is going to show up, excuse my word French,
Right.
and theirs too. And how we handle that, like, so that's that part about forgetting everything and running it versus seeing deeper what's happening to the pattern
Mhm.
of them and what's happening to the pattern of you. The reason why is because even if you say, for instance, leave one relationship, go to the next, and it looks like a different face, but then over time you start to see, oh my goodness, this is the same pattern. This is just that's the same thing in careers and
Well, the energies match each other. So whatever you're putting out is going to be found in that other experience, whether it's a person, whether it's a location, whether it's a job, whether it doesn't matter.
a
It's
business, right?
right.
Correct. So I'm so glad you mentioned that because then when you raise your energy and your vibration and your elevation and all, then it's like, oh my goodness, it's gonna confuse everything else. Great.
Especially all the people you know down here.
Yeah, like I want you to be like you used to be. But the beautiful thing is then you can only attract that.
That's right.
Or it'll either allow people to rise or fall off or whatever. But the secret is if you try to stay the word is like if you try to stay down to be able to keep the peace, you actually destroy your own peace.
So it just reminds me of something that came to me a while ago, which was when you're always trying to keep the peace with others, you're creating a war within yourself.
Correct.
Yeah. So and that's not an
Correct.
easy one.
No, not at all. And here's the thing, it's possible to rise above the noise,
That's right. Yeah.
rise above the confusion.
Hmm.
And when you come from your heart space, so a lot of times people get in their head. And when and actually trauma makes us do that. Trauma makes us overthink, overanalyze, over like it's always in the head. And it makes your mind probably feel like, because I remember my mind feeling like my worst enemy.
It creates more trauma. It just creates,
Correct.
right. So let me ask you a question though, because this is important. We're talking about the trauma you've experienced. We know people know some of the things that I've experienced, but for you, what did you do to overcome these traumas to be successful? Because a lot of people are desperate, literally, to figuring this out. And it's really, what do they say? It's simple, it's not easy, or I don't know if it's the other way around, whatever. But can you go over that for us?
I sure can. I sure can. Um, so interesting enough is that where my mind used to be my worst enemy is now actually my best friend. Where I remember looking in the mirror and like, oh my goodness, I can't stand this. There's a wrinkle. I don't know what's going on. And like picking apart everything to now look in the mirror. Oh my goodness, Dr. Heather, you look good today. Yes, like, yeah, like there's that love
Yeah.
for self, right? So where did this come from? The first thing is I don't had to. So I talk about four relationships, the most important relationships for anyone, regardless of who they are or what they believe or any situation.
Itself?
No, not
No?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay. That's great though. That's actually the second one. It's
Okay.
actually the second one.
Okay.
The first one is your relationship to the divine, to spirit, to God, whatever you believe. And we talk about in communication or in life coaching and life harmony coaching is that it's not, I love that everybody has different beliefs. It's actually really great. The biggest thing, are you practicing what you believe, what that connection is in that relationship? Because in order for you to have a good, healthy relationship with yourself, it's really important to have a good, healthy relationship with your purpose and why you were created and your calling, right? So it's like allowing, because in God's eyes, we are all love. We are all beauty. We are all like freaking amazing key star players in our game of business and life. Like we are masterpieces. But in our eyes, it can be like, well, I don't even know about that. So it's about letting his version of you override your version of you. So this is where your natural flow comes. It's not like fighting against the mind. So the first thing is, okay, we're given this calling to do this business, to do this podcast. It comes with a spark.
Mm.
The other part is it has to filter through our mindset,
Mm.
our mindset and our heart space, our mental and emotional wellness.
Right.
That is the piece. And this is why we specialize in that so well. Because when there is a clear mind, a light mind, when there's like a peace of mind, when there's wholeness to the mind and the heart,
Yeah.
then everything that you're called to create just easily gets manifested through
Because it's already there.
because it's already there,
Yes. Yes.
you know?
From number one, from the first.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, and then the beautiful part about that is now you have an awesome relationship with God. Now you have an awesome relationship with yourself. Then I want you to really highlight this. Then you can have healthy relationships with other people. Only fully then when there's a solid foundation where you know and honor your emotions, your mindset, your heart space, your body, and then you can really be able to see like it's that namaste. I love when I go to yoga and we say namaste at the end. That means the light in me honors the light in you. And we're called, that's also the part of the word aloha. We're called to have this beautiful love for other people. Everyone is a beautiful being of light, even if they choose not to play with the light.
Right. Well, I gotta say something. That's just who I am. So every indigenous population has a phrase that's the same. Like what I see in you, what I see in you, I see in me. Aloha means can mean hello, goodbye, and connects. There's what was the other one? What was the other one you mentioned?
Namaste.
Namaste. Or Mitakie Oyasin is a Native American way of saying it. It means we are all one. All my relations. I'm sorry, all my relations. And even the Africans, I don't remember, I've heard phrases that they've used that are very similar. So the mindset there pulls from how and that's how they do did their lives, and some of them still do their lives, is they pull from the great creator or higher power or higher self through themselves, and then all my relations. So that's
Correct.
what you just, yeah, so that's really cool. Thank you for that. I've never heard it put that way.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, see, and I'm going to take it a level deeper
Oh,
because it's exactly the case. So, in that time where there was a lot of array, and a lot of times trauma will make us do that, it will make us be super external focused,
right,
right? So, and then we're having our internal condition depending on what's happening with the external and it can be like this roller coaster where it never creates a solid foundation or stability.
exactly.
But and we're taught that way. It's about other people. I remember where it was like 90% for other people and all these things that I'm doing, right? And then I got like 10% maybe for me, but sometimes I wouldn't get that 1%. So you got to switch it.
Yes,
Switch
yes,
it. So now I switch it to 99% for me.
yes,
That 1% for other people feels like 100% to them because then you can give from your overflow. Then
right,
it's actually much more easier and effort to just be because you know who you are and you know how who you serve and how you are, and you also are excited to be curious. Like I love that I know nothing. Everything that I'm saying here, I'm not the expert. I know nothing. And it's like a fraction of the pizza pie, right? And I love to be able to show up in awe and wonder to be able to see really the beauty of what I can learn from other people.
right, right. So when you do that with yourself and make yourself 99%, it doesn't make you selfish. We have been programmed, at least in my lifetime, that if we're not taking care of somebody else and doing everything for them, that we're being selfish. But if we don't take care of ourselves, it's just like putting the mask on in the airplane to have oxygen because you can't take care. They even say to do that before you take care of your child, right? So in order to take care of your child, you need the air to be able to help your child. So it's the same thing. So it's not selfish to give yourself that 99%. I wanted to validate that because that's so powerful that you bring that up.
And it's so interesting because it's a lot of times the common theme, like especially as us as coaches are in the personal and professional growth world, is self-care is not selfish, right? Because you can't pour out from an empty cup. And we can say that is one thing to say it, is another thing to live it.
Yeah,
Okay. It's about really fully living it. And here's the thing, guilt-free.
Yeah. Yeah.
free of the guilt. Because here's the thing, when you are filled up and you're given from your overflow, no one is ever depleted.
That's right. Yeah. 100%.
It's so great.
And you're right, because even as we practice for ourselves to be that way, like there are days that I'll spend 12, 14 hours a day working on the back side of this podcast. And then I get to a certain, I try to take breaks in between. I'm getting better at it. I set my alarm now sometimes. You know, that's important that we take care of ourselves like that, because we can't show up at 100% for life. It's not even about showing up for everybody, because I feel like that's an automatic, a given. If you have that, then it's just a response. It's like, oh yeah, sure, rather than, oh my God, I've got to do that now, so.
Well, it's especially important, especially for hypersensitive and for those who've gone through trauma. You need to be able to have that time to reflect. This holiday season was the first holiday season I took off for a month and a half. There was no worry about my business. There was no worry about like any other concerns. I didn't care whether I sent out a Happy New Year's or didn't. I know I posted maybe a thing, but I was totally present with myself, my loved ones, with God, connecting.
Mhm.
And there was a freedom in that. And how can you one way to implement it is take a vacation, maybe take a staycation,
Mhm.
2 days getaway just to be able to listen to yourself, get centered, connect with the divine, figure out what's the best way to go, and align with your soul plan and not the plan of other people. I think you asked like what helped with this, like what made this shift for me. And the biggest thing was becoming a coach. Becoming a coach, and like coaching literally saves lives. This is why we actually wrote volume 1 and 2 of The Power of Coaching.
Mhm.
Because us as coaches, we know the power of coaching, but we want to be able to let coaching be known as more like even better, well known as therapy. Because the best coaches know how to help people with the things from the past, present, and future, what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their heart, how to be able to release that for a lighter way forward.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, coaching is a win-win for everyone, because when you are able to support people in resolving their challenges, there's always a message in it for you. And then when you have the skills and techniques to resolve that challenge, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's so much freedom when it comes to that. The best form of communication with someone who doesn't know how to communicate is coaching questions.
Mhm. Oh
If
yeah.
you're a caregiver,
Yes.
coaching,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Well, it opens their minds up to thinking about what's really going on, as opposed to getting it stuck in the analytical mind going, or the thought process. We think 80,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. So instead of being in that loop, it's like, well, what was it that you did today that caused this to happen? Or just some simple question. And people are like, oh, oh, okay, that makes sense. And you did this with me, just having this conversation with me. Yeah, I'm a
Nice.
transformational coach, right? So I know exactly what you're talking about with how the questions help other people and stuff like that. But being in an environment where also that we're open to being coachable, right? So when you talked about the higher power, the levels, because I'm like, yeah, the self is it. The self that you saw me when I reacted to that, I was all excited because I finally, I'm in the process of getting connected at a deeper level with my higher power, right? And
Yep.
I've been doing this my whole life and I'm getting closer, but that wasn't my focus, because I kept being told self-love and focus on yourself. And that was my process going through the healing journey, was always about focusing on myself. No one really ever said that. And I'm like, oh, what?
I'll, I'll, well, I'm so glad that you share that, because a lot of times we do think that, oh my goodness. So when we rely on our own thinking, we fall short. And what happens is having that, and it doesn't have to be like, the beautiful thing is it can be like an ever present 24/7 connection. For example, because like a lot of people, it was several things that were coming to me as you were talking. But when we go through trauma, we tend to focus on a lot of what's going on in the mind. There and the overthinking and overanalyzing, like I mentioned, we neglect the heart space, but we also neglect our energy, which is the biggest picture, that connection to the divine and spirit. And there's 1% of our mind that is our higher self, that connection to divine. The problem is that it's only connected to our unconscious mind, and we cannot consciously access it if we don't resolve what's going on in the unconscious mind. So it's like this part. So this is why when you ask me, can you repeat what you said? I have no clue because it just flows.
Download,
You
yeah, because I'm like that too. I was hoping you would remember.
Yeah.
I knew you weren't going to be able to remember.
Yes, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. Everything is different. Everything is new because it's through that. But that connection,
Yeah.
so I want to let you know that connection is literally the ticket
Yes.
to success in business and life.
Yes.
All areas,
Yes.
all success
That's the
comes from there.
yeah.
Why? Because then it allows you to drop down into your heart space to
Yes.
understand what's going on in your heart space, as well as even safely be in your body,
Right.
comfortable in your own skin, like that grounded power. Um, because for those of us who have gone through trauma, we're trying to escape the body. Well, you can't escape your body as much as you want to. We try to escape our mind. We try to escape our heart. I saw this really great post on Facebook the other day where it said it had like the mind had the key to the cell, and it locked up the heart, right? And it was like wanted to keep you locked up in the like keeping the heart locked up, and this is where you're safe.
Mhm.
So this comes from like the energetic heart walls that sometimes are created and that happen as we go through trauma, that serve us in the moment but do not serve us when we're really called to do something on a big scale. It's like having, okay, this is who I am, come see me, but there's this energetic barrier or wall for people to get to you. So I have a great acronym for the word heart that I want to share with you
Yes. Yes. Okay.
because, like I said before, whereas it's the matters of the heart that plague the mind the most, when you step into your unconditional love and embrace and love your heart fully for the amazingness that it is, then it's so what's in the middle, right? We got our mind, our heart, our mind, and we got spirit. In the middle is the mind. So when you actually are able to clear that, but also what's in the middle too is your throat.
Right.
You're able to express,
Right.
fully express the amazingness that you are.
That's
So I want you to write out the word heart.
Let me ask you real quick. I did, but let me it sounds like you're talking as we elevate in life. Like we've been so focused on the lower chakras, it sounds like now you're referencing the higher chakras when you say when you're talking about this stuff.
Well, and a lot of times we can live in those higher chakras, but we don't want to ignore the bottom chakras too, right?
Balance.
So it's right. And it's about the reason why I specialize in mental and emotional wellness is because when there's clarity of the mind, you can bring spirit down, right? When there now an emotional side, when there's clarity of your emotions and the energetic and harmony within, then you can manifest on the earth. It's like you are able to connect to the physical manifestation. So it's like a top down and bottom up approach.
Father, Son,
And
Mother Earth. It's just lack of better words, woo-woo and grounding. But you're
correct.
putting it together so there's a balance.
Correct.
Okay.
And it really everyone will understand the middle. Most people don't understand about energy. And I tell people, you know, it's okay if you don't believe in energy, but you better be glad that energy believes in you because this was holding your whole body together right now.
Oh, by the way. Okay. So
Yeah.
go back to heart.
Okay. So the H stands for two things. Healing takes place here. Healing takes place here. Um, also stands for happiness is an inside job. So a lot of times people think, oh my goodness, if I just do this, I'll be happy. Or if this person just changes, I'll be happy. But you're looking for, when you're giving your happiness to an external situation, you're giving your power away.
Yep. Yeah.
So this part about healing takes place here. It is the domain of, so the heart is the domain of your emotions. I mean, as well as connected to the mind. They're connected, but the heart is actually even sometimes more smarter than the brain. So when you're coming with a decision, you want to get out of your head and just drop down and check into your heart on
Mhm.
what does your heart say.
Mhm.
Um, there's much more to be said there, but I want to talk about home is where the heart is. Home
Right.
is where the heart is. So there's a scripture that said is Mark 3:25, and it says, if a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Now, here's the thing. We're not just talking about a physical home where you got two worlds colliding, trying to figure it out and raise kids and do all that. Where your body is also a home. So when there's conflict in there, it will trickle in to everything that you're doing.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because that also expands out even further. So it goes out into a country, it goes out into the world, it goes out into the universe. So if there's anything divided against itself, it's not going to, it won't withstand that. So,
Right.
but you have to start within self because if you don't start within self, then everyone is going to feel that from you because like you said it's like everything that we feel inside of ourselves is projected out. So if you're
Correct.
angry, you're going to see anger all around you. If you're sad, you're going to see a lot of sadness around you, you know. So I appreciate that. For me, I appreciate that our healing starts here because if we don't do our own healing, it won't trickle out to the world either, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the E stands for exponential success flows from here. Oh my goodness. When you bring your aloha into your business, it becomes magnetic. When you bring your aloha into your relationships, they become magnetic.
Right.
You know, when you bring your aloha into your, so this part of where I talk about the trauma that I experienced, things don't really fully sometimes become apparent until you become a parent. So these parts of, oh my goodness, my children are turning 3, 4, 5 around the same seasons. This is one of the things where that's interesting. You can think about it, for example, like your birthday.
Mhm.
So birthday happens every year. I'm sure a lot of people will say happy birthday, happy birthday. But there's a lot of times most people aren't happy on their birthday. I
That's
mean, a good portion. I remember being miserable on my birthday to like, oh my goodness, I love my birthday. Yay, I'm a year older. Yay. Right? Like I want y'all to also be able to say yay to me because with your age comes wisdom. And
right.
when there's not this added weight of what was,
Mhm.
then every day is or every birthday is like a beautiful, fresh, oh my goodness, yes, what's gonna happen? How amazing is it to come to life in a place of wonder
Mhm.
as compared to, oh my goodness, this is just another day. What's the next best worst thing that's gonna happen?
Right, right.
So this goes into the A, which is align your mind, body, heart, and soul. Align your mind, body, heart, and soul. Okay, that's that conflict that I said inside that makes that house shaky and wobbly. If my mind says one thing, my heart says another,
Mhm.
right? I remember like, oh my goodness, do I stay or do I go? Do I run? Do I fight or do I flight? Well, what about fighting and taking flight? You know what I mean? What about like not fighting from like, but like fighting from the calmness that you are.
Mhm.
So when there's this conflict, it actually brings the cost of success up and the time to success up. But when there's an alignment and a congruency within you, your cost to success goes down and your time to success also goes down.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful thing in any area of life. Because, and the reason why I talk about life harmony is because when there's something going on in one area, we tend to ignore or avoid, it will trickle into the other areas. And so, I remember being on a call recently and the lady was like, you can't possibly have life peace on all sides and life. You got to work on one thing at a time. And I said, I respect and appreciate your model of the world. And if you just focus on one thing, completely ignoring this other thing, that mountain that were once pebbles becomes bigger and bigger and louder and louder. So,
Right.
um, and so that goes into the R.
Yes. Are.
Resistance is a sign to pay attention.
Ah,
Resistance is a sign to pay attention. I shared earlier today that the resistance of is a sign of lack of rapport or trust or intention with something. It could be that maybe it's not the right way to do it. This is one of the reasons why I love being able to support and show people how to coach in the right way, because there's a lot of coaches out there that are doing it just not so good and causing more damage than good. The answers are supposed to come from the client on the way forward or the options. And sometimes, like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard of a coach leading someone down a path and it did not align with their soul. And then they figure it out and then have to rebrand. And then it just creates this like whole thing.
but that's also their journey. It's their opportunity. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them someone who gets to uh re look at themselves and reach and
Correct.
you know,
It's all part of the journey. It's actually all really beautiful because then there's a lesson in it,
of course.
right? There's always a lesson in it.
It's a lesson, yes.
So this other part about resistance, there's a quote by Robert Campbell, and he says, "The cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." So what's the cave? What's the treasure? What is that is creating the biggest resistance? Because sometimes the resistance might also be calling you to do something that's going to bring you the fastest fruit, but you have a resistance of doing it because there's something on the inside that needs to be processed first. And I get that. I used to hate speaking. Now I'm like, okay, cool, let's talk.
Yeah, yeah. I just realized the other day how many videos I have actually done. Like I remember the first video that I've done, and I can see the progression. I can see how like really nervous and scared I was at the beginning, and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm saying, and I don't know what I think I don't know what I'm talking about, and all this kind of stuff. And then now, even when I get nervous, it's okay because that's part of this. It actually gives me the energy to do this. But it's like it's so different now. But that's another thing. I mean, that's something else to add to this is just if you resist, you don't give yourself the opportunity. And trust me, resistance is a big thing for me. It's actually part of my mantra in every morning that I put out there. It's I accept and surrender without resistance and
Right.
with trust and faith. So every morning I put it in my journal, and then I say that because resistance is a bugger, and it's important that we recognize the resistance in order to step through that and to, put a little kibosh on the resistance piece of it. And then the other thing about Robert Campbell, it's interesting because I've said this for a long time, for a while now, maybe a few years, 5 or 6 years, but I had this recognition that why is it that the thing that we resist the most, this was my phrase, and I didn't even know about him. Why is it that the thing that we resist the most is the thing that we're meant to either do or heal? What is that? And that was the question I kept asking. You just validate it with that the thing that he said. So yeah.
So the biggest resistance a lot of times comes from the unconscious mind,
Uh-huh.
and the unconscious mind hates change.
Oh,
So
100.
when there's a resistance to some, or when there's like a thing like, okay, I'm called to do this, it's gonna kick up and it's gonna fight and it's gonna yell like, no, we're safe here. Like it's not safe to do that. So what, and sometimes it comes from a belief system, which again, when you eradicate the beliefs and you shift it, then the resistance dissipates and goes away.
But sometimes it comes from somebody else who doesn't have faith in themselves, so they don't think you can do it either.
Well, then that's also another thing about absorbing other people's energy and emotions and thoughts and allowing other people's opinions of you to override or impact your, and that's something that's normal as an empath, right? It's something so common. And this is why I said we want to shift it.
Right.
So the T stands for faith and trust. And you mentioned that in your journal, over circumstances and situations. Oh my goodness. Some craziness happens, and we can naturally respond, oh, why did this happen to me? Blah, blah, blah. versus, oh, what is the message in this? What is the message in this mess? What is it teaching me? I'll give you a quick example. We went on family vacation a couple of months ago and had a great time. It was amazing. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then we're coming back home. And as soon as I cross the bridge and get on the shore, all of a sudden the transmission does not want to shift. So we
Oh,
have to drive like a tractor, like 35 miles an hour all the way home and then park it and figure out what's going on. We got a transmission replacement like I think back in May or a couple of months before. And I kept telling them something was off with it, something was off with it. Come to find out the brain of the transmission needed to be replaced and they replaced it and it's great now. But it's so easy for something to happen. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm being frustrated. Oh, wait. Okay, what is the message in this?
yeah.
First of all, where's the gratitude in this? This could happen when we were on vacation in the middle of the city, right? But no, it happened when we were right here, right? Like, so that in itself is there. But what also is the message? Man, it's about the time to slow down. We did so much client delivery and so much serving this year, which is why I took the nice, beautiful vacation to be able to stop and smell the roses. Because a lot of times we are forgetting to be, and it's so easy to forget to be, and
Mhm.
you deserve to be. So that's just a simple example of how you want to have trust and faith in all situations and circumstances, that they're working for you, not against you. Even the trauma, as much as it sucks that we went through it, the
Right.
reality of the situation is by going through it, how many people can you actually relate to and serve and be of service, on the other side of that to help them be able to overcome it? If you can overcome it, so they can they.
And there needs to be also a willingness and a choice, though. Like, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, do you really want to get the now? And I'm speaking from experience right now. Do you really want to get the 2x4 across the head to do this, or would you rather do it by going, maybe I need to shift my way of thinking, or I get to shift my way of thinking and make a different choice and this and that. But we're so, as human beings, most of us wait for the 2x4 to hit us on the side of the head instead of just allowing and trusting and being a part of the process, because my feeling is that we chose to be here and we're experiencing these things to help us grow. I didn't
Correct.
feel this way when I was going through everything, but I do see it now. And it's not, that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. As much as that saying sucks, there's a lot of truth in that. And to be able to recognize that it's something that's helping you, like you said, it's something that's helping you rather than trying to smash you down, because that's what's
Correct.
happening, right? So,
Mhm.
on that note, real quick, what did you learn on your journey that you wish you would have known sooner? And
Oh my goodness. The one that's coming to me the most right now is that other people's opinions of you are none of your business. So other people's opinions of me are none of my business, right? And um that was something that was so crucial to be able to embrace that, because that's the truth. Like all of the resistance of fear of what other people will think, or what other, like, even in relationships, even in business, like, the beautiful part of not or breaking free from that, because everybody's going to have an opinion. And the reality is, most people's opinions of you have nothing to do with you. It's all being filtered what's in their mindset and when they're what's in their heart space
their trauma.
and their trauma, which is why the beautiful part about communication mastery and the stuff that I teach is that no one will ever BS you again. You also will never BS yourself, because you can see through people's authenticity. Are they wearing their trauma on their sleeve, where it's basically people with heart wounds, like especially like big heart walls, they actually will be easy to cut you off or not care, or like, so, and then that's something that's really huge to pay attention to that, because
Mhm.
then you know how to deal with yourself, you know how to deal with other people. And there's a beauty in that when you first recognize that other people's crap is not your crap.
Well, and that's a good lesson to learn as things go through what's happening right now on
Oh yeah.
social media and the planet. And it was interesting that I saw someone had posted something. Well, this isn't the first time I've seen it. Someone had posted, well, I'm considering getting off Facebook because all these people started shooting me down, telling me I was some word that was ridiculous and all this stuff. And I don't normally do this. And I got on there and I put a comment on there. I'm like, don't you dare. I said, this stuff that's coming from these other people, like you said, it's from their own stuff. And just as an awareness, there is also a possibility, and that's how I'm going to state it right now because I don't know fully, but I'm tending to see this, because I also perceive things that don't make sense. Like I analyze everything. So I'm on Facebook and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I also had a story that a friend of mine told me a couple of days ago, but we've been told that the algorithms on social media are based off. So what we see are because of things that we choose to see. So it feeds us everything that we choose to see. So you've got one side. So it's a separation thing here. So you've got one side watching things like love and light and awakenings and changing timelines and new earth and all these different things are popping up, right? And then you've got the other side who are in this space of fear and all these things that are going on, being fed what they're being fed. So my friend told me he went to get his hair cut and his hairdresser said, oh, well, all these people who are, liberals or on the left side or whatever, and they're going to turn around and they're just going to start, doing things to us and, what, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, the last time I checked, most people who are spiritual or in that headspace, whatever, don't do that. So somebody's being told something somewhere, right? And it was interesting because as humans, our psyche, all this stuff we pick up on, just like when we were little kids and had a trauma, but now it's being stacked on top of each other and it's being fed out, and people are starting to feel that one side's going to attack the other and all this kind of stuff. But that's not what's happening. That's what's being shared because of what your algorithm is.
Correct.
Right. So it's like, I am not the type of person who's going to go out there and do anything cruel to somebody. It's just not who I am. So if someone is sharing with you that that's what I'm going to do, that's not correct. So,
well, there's a lot to social media and the algorithms and the stuff that's happening. And the part that you were talking about really is that we're being fed information unconsciously, or like, and a lot of times people don't realize how it's actually impacting their internal world and their internal state. And it is creating more of a disempowerment as compared to stepping into your own empowerment. The stuff that we're talking about here is really about becoming the key star player in your business and life, meaning that you take control and ownership of what you want to take in
right.
and what you want to, and then a lot of times I think that part about putting information out there, I think I hear this a lot too. I put this video out there, I put this post out there, and no one commented on it or blah blah blah. And that's an example of forget about that. Like it's great you put it out there, yay, and then move on to the next thing and let go of how it's going to be received, because even though people aren't commenting, they're still watching it.
Well, yeah, I think what's interesting though is it's like the discrepancies.
Polarization.
Yes, the polarization, which causes us to believe that we can't, because someone is going to do that. That's the reason I brought that up, is because whatever's being shared on the algorithms is like putting these thoughts in our head. Well, I can't, might as well not do it. Like you just said, if nobody's watching my video, then why bother? Right. So it's intended to bring our energy back down again, but that's not what you're doing. You're raising the energy of people to help them to get out there and do.
Well, and here's the part about it bringing the energy back down. I'm glad you mentioned that because that part about when it keeps happening over and over again, the secret is how to not let it bring your energy down,
Right.
right? To like rise above it or to like not take it in. It's
Right.
almost like when you take it in, you got to fight.
Right, exactly. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, for those of you who are listening to this, whatever's going on out there on social media, come back here. All that is just trying to trip you up. And when you work with somebody like Dr. Heather, or you hear a conversation like this, it just gives you a different, well, wait, maybe I should see things. This isn't what's really happening. What about this?
Well, and all of it is automatically programmed, like we talked about before.
Right.
And so this is where we want to have grace and mercy with them.
With everyone.
Um, and then it's a big one because the program, so I studied or computers. The mind is like a computer, so I get it. So basically it's like when you get hit by the 2x4 and you get this thought of, oh, maybe I should do something about this.
Right.
Because really, I did a video talking about you are the common denominator. Whether you had all these crazy jobs or all these crazy relationships,
Yep.
you're the common denominator. So when you change, everything changes. But we don't see that or know that because it's not in most people's conscious awareness
Right, right. And these conversations bring it into
to the
people.
light.
Yes, and that's the intention. Like, I don't care one way or the other what the algorithms are doing or whatever, but the fact that it's a thing that's happening, it's like,
Correct.
you know what I mean? So it's something to think about. And that somebody taught me that years ago. It's like if somebody brings something up to you, the first thing that we do when we're traumatized is we're going to fight it. Instead, they were telling me this. Instead, just go, just like you were saying, I wonder what the lesson is in this, or I wonder what's going on here, or what's happening. How can I look at this differently? Those
Correct.
opportunities, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay, is there anything else you want to add to this last piece of it? Because I have a few questions that I normally ask everybody at the very end, and I want to make sure that you are complete with this part.
Okay. Biggest picture is that you have more power than you think you do.
Yeah.
And when you really give yourself permission to heal the past, to live in the present, to expand your vision for the future, and really step into the beautiful divine calling, whatever that may be for you, you can actually really have peace on earth. It doesn't mean that you don't have to wait until you die for peace and harmony. You can have it right now. And I'm honored to be able to support people in being able to do that.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
Mm. The whole world is awakening right now.
Cool.
See, awakening pretty much goes back to what I shared before. There's an external situation or there's something that's happening in your world, and you're feeling the call to do something about it. For example, I shared the situation that happened with Trayvon Martin, and I felt my call of like to be able to do something about it because when we step into our own empowerment, no one else can disempower you, right? Like no one else's judgment, like you're free. That's like a freedom right
Mhm.
there. Um, and with all the shifts, so like a lot of times people are like freaking out because all the stuff that's happening, and I get that.
There's a
There's
lot.
so much stuff going on. The
Mhm.
question is, we can't control that
Mhm.
fully. So awesome. What is in our power to control? How do we want to respond to it? From like for example, when I shared the situation about Trayvon Martin, I could have gone out. I was actually ready to go out there and protest and be all angry. And my husband was like, "No, you're not going out there." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I'm like, "Okay, well, how can I do it instead?" What did I do? I created this company.
Well,
Right?
yeah.
So that is the question. what is it with it? What is it that you're called to be able to respond and do about the situation and release that detachment or the stronghold because it has a mental and emotional stronghold, you focusing on that external.
Mhm. But by
And
creating the company, your response was from peace. It wasn't from anger and hatred. And
correct.
what happened over there with Trevon was all about hatred and anger. What you did as a response to what happened to him is to create that space and open that space to bring peace through your work to people so they don't get into that kind of a situation or things like that, so they know what to do with themselves and they learn how to become peaceful and they can start their journeys or their businesses or whatever they're doing from a peaceful space.
So here's what's interesting about that, and I'll keep it brief because I know we're coming close to time. But starting off, that anger and stuff, it was fueled. It was so it's all about the energy, right? So I created it originally with this energy of frustration and pain and suffering. Well, that led to a lot of reflection of pain and suffering, right? And hurt. So this part about we want that part about the need to release that, yes, to then step into the piece, like getting clarity on that, but letting the intrinsic motivation for while you're doing something not come from the negative emotions of anger and frustration and wanting to be like, but coming from that more higher vibe of love, get to understanding and
Mhm.
awareness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's exactly, yeah, because a lot of people, if something like that happens, they're going to fight back. That's the first reaction. It's, oh my God, this happens. You and a lot of people who do similar things as you can have enough awareness in that moment, even if you're angry, because anger is passion.
Mm-hmm.
Your driver, but you drove in a different road. You didn't drive this way and attack. You went this way and reorganized and built something out of it.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's the difference. I mean, that's why we're meant to have our emotions. Anger is important. It helps with boundaries. It helps us with, starting things that we know we need to start. Every single group that's ever started to help people was probably started at some point with some kind of passion and anger, right?
That's true.
Right? So that's what you did. That's what I've done, because I know that this is not working the way it's happening in our world at the moment. There's another side to this. And you get to take what your knowledge and experience is and move it forward or help or guide people to move it forward for themselves. Does that
Correct.
resonate?
It does.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Okay. All right. The next question I have is, what is soul divinity to you?
Soul divinity is I know who I am. I know who I am. I know how I serve. There is no conflict of how I am here versus how I am off camera. Or there's a um whereas it's not this like polarization. Like for example, I remember my husband would be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We used to have this whole like crazy thing. There's just like, oh no, this is who I am. This is
Mhm.
how I start. And there's a grounded and rooted in it. Soul divinity is really knowing who you are and actually being it.
Now, is it something that's an interesting way you put it? Because for me, when I created this idea of this podcast, Awakening Soul Divinity, it was the awakening piece was awakening as humanity, and the soul divinity is our intention, like what to but I hear you saying that's, and this is awesome because it's who we already are. It's just releasing all of the other stuff and understanding who we are as humans to become that, the truth of who we are as soul divinity.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Good. See, I'm learning all kinds of stuff here. All right. Next question. What is God or source?
What is God? The word that's coming is everything.
Mm.
Everything. You know, me, you, it's the heavens, nature.
Mhm.
It's like one of the biggest ways to describe it is like you have an ocean and you get like a cup from the ocean. It still contains like the whole, like I was like the whole is the sum of its parts, but basically it contains all the elements still of the ocean in the sample, right? So that essence pretty much is in everything, which is beautiful because every living thing and every also non-living thing, which is very interesting because the energy, so big picture is energy. The
Mhm.
energy that was created to create that thing is still in that thing. So yeah, energy.
Nice. I love that. All right. Next question is, what is unconditional love?
Oh, you already know. I'm gonna say aloha. Agape love, the the true love that surpasses all understanding. So like in the word aloha, it means light. It means um truthfulness, honesty, um lokahi, united, right? Patient perseverance. Like, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many times I hear, oh my goodness, Dr. Heather, this relationship should have been resolved by now, or this business should have already been successful by now. Like all of this frustration. So there's frustration because it's not the outcome they think it should be by now, but that's your plan. That's not the divine soul plan of unconditional love because there's pieces, the powers in the progress, the
Mhm.
powers in the process. And a lot of times people want to get to the destination and they're so frustrated by the destination and they give up or go a different way or find another squirrel.
That's why they call it a journey.
That's why they call it a journey. But see, here's the thing. When you actually understand the lessons and the message, and there's that connection and congruency, you don't have to go through all of these hills and mountains. You can just start walking, like right.
That's the 2x4 conversation. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
Correct.
and also too, the journey is not a straight line either. It's never going to be a straight line. It's always going to have twists and turns and going off the side for a little while and then coming back on and then doing it again.
Yeah.
It's never going to end that.
It's a
And
beautiful dance
right. And to be enjoyed
to be enjoyed.
as best.
And that is, unconditional love too is also um being able to love unconditionally when people wrong you,
Mhm.
when you have every reason to not forgive or hold on to like this bitterness or resentment, but you choose not to, right? That is unconditional love. Being able to see yourself in a new light, other people in a new light, and yeah, there's so much more to it, but yeah,
We're all souls. One of the things I've always done when I drive down, where do you live? You're in Virginia.
Virginia.
Okay. So, but 95, so I think I can share this with your knowledge there too. But 95 in South Florida is very challenging. There are some days when I'm literally driving down 95 and I'm like I can feel it. I'm like, oh my God, the energy out here right now is just like, yeah, so I've learned to see, oddly, just kind of a different, not visually, but the other sight. I've learned to see everyone as souls who are driving, because when I see everyone as souls, even the ones that are trying to cut me off, it puts my energy, it like expands my energy. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. Let them go. It's okay. You know, I
Yes.
know 95 is like that in Virginia because I'm from Virginia. So it doesn't change anywhere really, but it's a little crazier sometimes, I think, here. I
It's
don't,
definitely crazier down there.
yeah. Okay.
We used to live in Florida. But there's also a reason why as well. So up here, I don't remember if I did a video on this or not, but big picture, we have changing of seasons.
Mhm.
Seasons change. We do not want them to change, but they change. So when there's a change external, it forces us to have a change internal. Unfortunately, down in Florida, where there's not really much change, then it festers some of the things and people aren't really forced to change, which whatever's going on gets amplified.
Well, that makes sense because winter, for the most part, is because it's still warm down here. We think it's, yay, spring, summer, whatever that is
Right.
anywhere else. But uh, maybe because I'm not from here originally, I can still tell the difference in the seasonal changes, and it helps me to move into, you know, most of the time. But I hear what you're saying because a lot of times it's like it's endless summer. That's what they say down here. It's consistent, but that makes sense because we need winter to go inside to
And
hide.
every season, there's a reason inside
Yeah.
that just
So,
don't get.
well, that's an interesting perspective. I never thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so how can people get in touch with you? Now you can share this.
Awesome. Okay. So I have on my website, anotherlevelliving.com/harmony. I have 7 secrets towards more biz life harmony that I highly recommend that you download. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, it'll be really super supportive for you in a career or whatever transition that you're in. And also check out our website, anotherlevelliving.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have great messages on there. We do workshops every once a quarter, especially the beginning part of the year. One on communication, mind mastery, and another one on biz life harmony. And yeah, just tune in and get connected with us. We would love to be able to get to know you as well.
Beautiful. And by getting connected with them, you get connected with yourself and your higher power.
Hey, it's a win-win for everyone.
Oh, in a different way. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we go?
I think this was the biggest thing is I have this shirt. I don't even know if you do the thing, but it says we all have our time to shine, and there's a sun in
It
there.
says it was repeated. Okay, I was trying to read.
Yes, yes, just repeated. We all have our time to shine. Now really is your time to shine.
Yeah,
If not now, then when? And if not you, then who? Lives are literally being lost as a result of you not showing up in your full light. And yes, I went through a lot of great fear and I understood that. And as I was seeing these lives lost, as me not showing up in my full light, it's like you can hear the call for your life, or you can continue to endure the pain fighting against it. So why, instead of resist it, go with the flow and really step into all the amazingness that you are. And if there's a confusion of your purpose or you're not so sure what to do, then just go ahead and reach out and we can have a chat and talk about that.
beautiful, beautiful. And there was, I don't remember who said this, but it's like our graveyards are full of people who never did that.
Correct.
Yeah. So do it.
Now.
Now's the it's time. I always say that it's time. So reach out to Dr. Heather and change your life.
Yay.
So thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
so
I
much,
really
Karen.
appreciate you. I mean, that was a really great conversation. I enjoyed it very much. So
Likewise, likewise. Absolutely my honor and pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
thank you. And for those of you who are listening or watching, thank you for being here on Awakening Soul Divinity. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.